Um, how about we go to Michael Dussman?
Morning, Michael Dussman, go by Mike or Mike or Michael or whatever you want to call me. I am the QEP or Qualified Environmental Professional, working in contract with Mark to assist projects from an environmental standpoint to make sure that they meet KDHE, MDNR, and Brownfield regulations that are supported by the funding provided through these programs.
Thank you. And how do we go to NRG's team? So Rahima introduced herself. Daniel, do you want to go?
I'm Daniel Robinson with NRG. I've been the point of contact thus far for, well, like the last year and a half with NRG.
Great. And Deanna, good to see your face finally. Go ahead, please.
Yes, just want to make sure you can hear me okay?
Yep.
My name is Deanna. I'm the finance director for Groundwork.
Welcome. Great. And Kelly.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Kelly Breer, and I work at KLS with Casey Johnson, who could not be here today. So I'll take good notes.
Thank you. I'm going to just share a provisional agenda to see if that would help guide discussion. It doesn't mean that we're stuck with it at all. Just a suggested guide for conversation. And Rahima, do you want to go ahead and see if this is helpful and start stating, what you would like to accomplish in the meeting?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm the appropriate person to be speaking, actually. Daniel is the project coordinator. However, you did reach out to me for a chat. And so it just seemed best to kind of pull everybody together.
Sure.
And so in that case, I'm happy to try to kind of facilitate. But yeah, I definitely am not the one who holds all the information by any means. So yeah, I can facilitate if that helps. So, I mean, I guess first we could just clarify our goal for the meeting. And so I'll read out the goal as Andrew has stated. And Andrew, thank you for drafting this agenda. And let's just see if there's actually any other goals. Is this our overarching goal? Is it completely comprehensive of what we're trying to do today in the hour we have? Or is there something else we're missing based on what you know? So today, we're going to be looking to clarify the remediation project goals for the Northeast Grocer at 1726 Quindaro, the path and the timeline in light of the near-term opportunity to secure $1 million in EPA supplemental revolving loan funds for the entire Brownfield Coalition. I'm not sure of the technical name of that coalition at this point,
yep,
but
that's fine. And my apologies for Daniel. My apologies to you personally. I'm sorry to kind of sidestep you. You've been doing an excellent job getting this project to where it is at this point. So I'm sorry, but by all means, I just wanted to see if we could get some clarity on these issues. So jump in at any time, please.
Okay, so anything from anybody on the call about this that we have not covered in this overarching goal? All right, seeing none. So then we have a report from our end. So Daniel, is it appropriate for me to turn this over to you at this point for the project status and goals, as well as the PRIDE agreement status? And I think we'd probably also want to add, Andrew, HFFI. I think that's one of the difficulties we've experienced, is we also have the significant amount of funding to the tune of about $150,000 in construction funding. conceivably, that we're also trying to wrestle getting spent down and weave into this overall process. So that'd be great. Thank you.
I think Rahima kind of hit the nail on the head there for that right there. I believe in like the previous email I kind of sent earlier is this week is we're waiting on our original application is done. It just needed some kind of quotes on how much the project was going to cost and the timeline. So we still have that ready to go. And everything else, I think we're waiting on Spencer Fain lawyers to get us the draft of the agreement sent over so we can get it to our board and get it signed. Yeah, we're kind of just hanging out in limbo, just patiently waiting to get in there.
Okay, so
And if I
Daniel,
can,
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, Andrew. There are two things I wanted to kind of confirm, maybe as sub bullet points. So Daniel said that the RLF application from our end is done. So I want to make sure that as in fact, everybody's understanding in terms of we have submitted everything we needed to do. Then in the Spencer Fain draft under the NRG and Pride agreement, you know, I know we floated around a couple of different options, and I believe Casey was waiting on what Spencer Fain was going to draft to be sent over to him. And I may be the only one, I'm not entirely sure which of the three options we went with, whether it was transferring the property temporarily, doing the LLC. That's on me. I know we've talked about it, but I just don't remember what we landed on. So, because we talked about it over and over and over, realized what we land on. So, yeah, thank you.
I think on that, it appeared to me that you had settled on a pre-purchase agreement by which Pride and NRG would agree to transfer the property to NRG for the duration of the cleanup project and maybe a further, I don't know exactly what the period would be, but then at a certain point, NRG would transfer the property back to Pride. And I also saw there was some kind of a lease agreement that was being drawn up as well. So waiting on Spencer Fain, and Spencer Fain is Pride's counsel. We do not have Pride represented in this call today, but Daniel, do you want to follow up on that and see if Terrence and Spencer Fain are able to get that agreement to you in time, or would you like me to help out with that or to stay out of it?
Mr. Brecker, if you want to kind of facilitate that, I'd happy to be support on that. But I think it's,
Andrew,
Yes.
I did reach out to Spencer Fain this week already, have not heard back yet. We can try reaching out to Terrence as well if you want. But I don't know if there's another way to contact Spencer Fain at this point that might be more effective.
I can give them a message as well and just, request a status. So but thanks for that information. And I think we should, yep.
I was just going to say, since Alyssa already seems to be having some type of contact with Spencer Fain, maybe that should be
Leave
the
that alone.
person that's handling, because I think it's also kind of uncomfortable for me to think about Daniel trying to kind of work with Pride, also work on our end. It's just a lot. And, one of the reasons why I think EPA, they wanted to have that separation of counsel. So, I mean, it would be helpful if Alyssa and Andrew, you were able to kind of massage that Spencer Fain Pride situation, because it's just kind of not, I think that's not appropriate anymore for several reasons.
Okay, very good. We'll take that on, and so that.
I mean, Daniel, is that okay
Yeah.
with you? Yeah, okay.
Okay. And then with respect to the RLF application, I think the draft that we received didn't exactly, Daniel, you provided some good information, but it didn't exactly complete the required parts of the application. So, and we've done it in the past. What Scott and I are going to do is prepare a draft application for all of you to review based on what you've submitted, and also requesting some additional information that we don't have yet. And it's going to track a little bit more closely the call for projects application that we put out last summer, which had some more detailed information about everyone's project and the community benefits and the community that's going to be impacted and some eligibility requirements. So we'll take care of that. We'll send it over to you for your review, and then and highlight any blanks that need to be filled in. But I want to step back just a moment and make sure I think I'm hearing everyone correctly here. We are still on track to provide an RLF subgrant to NRG for this cleanup project. And since I didn't hear any objections, and maybe this should be the subject for discussion, we'll get into a little more detail. We are going to try to prepare a subgrant for consideration by the Brownfields Commission in time to take advantage of this near-term opportunity to secure an additional $1 million for the coalition. Since, I mean, that wasn't expressly discussed, but I wanted to make sure that we're kind of on board, or if there's any major concerns with that they're expressed and discussed.
I appreciate that, Andrew. What is the date for the subgrant?
So,
I mean, what is the date that you're trying to meet to get the 1 million, excuse me?
Okay. I am trying to pin that down with EPA. Last year, March 17th, 2023 was the date that requests for supplemental funds were due. I've set up 3 Brownfield Commission meetings for 3 separate projects. Northeast Grocers is one of them, for dates in late February and early March, so that we have commitments of funds to these projects that will make our RLFs eligible to request the supplemental funding.
Okay. So for us, if we're moving ahead, we need to be looking to have a board meeting in February.
Precisely.
Yeah, okay, so we need to have a February board meeting. And I think, Andrew, the only thing that, might be a hiccup is this is an agreement that we're entering into with Pride, and transferring the property and transferring it back. And like, that's really complicated. So, Casey and his team, Kelly, are going to have to look over and make sure Groundwork Energy's best interests are served doing this rather than an LLC or what have you. There's the HFFI wrinkle where they, and Kelly, you did some research on that. I'm not sure if you want to, if you're available right now to share that with everybody about the federal regulations on if the capital expenditures end up being used for a purpose other than their original intended purpose. So for example, if we remediate this building and even 20 years down the line, it stops being a grocery store, that money has to be paid back. And who's on the hook for that? So those are some wrinkles that we have to fold into this process to make it comprehensive. Kelly, are you able to share on some of that?
Yeah, I did some research on that, and I didn't see any kind of, term requirements, for lack of a better way to say it. It seemed to me from all the research that so long as the funds are used within the scope of the grant and the project is successfully completed, I don't think there's any kind of requirement that I could find that says any kind of refund has to happen down the road if the building changes hands or its projects go a different direction.
And Deanna, remind me, and Daniel, remind me, that's markedly different than what HFFI team has been telling us, right?
Yeah, it is. In our last email from HFFI, they just, because we increased our cost for construction costs, it was originally like 7,000 and we increased it to like over 100,000. They specifically highlighted that, right, that we would be on the hook for that.
That there could be
Is
some
it
kind
down
of
the
federal
line?
clawback.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
well, whatever
Kelly, I can,
HFFI is saying, I mean, obviously that's what I would go with, but all of the research I did, I could not find any provisions about clawing back the funds or how long the building has to be used for the purpose for which the grant was applied or anything like that. But if you guys have an HFFI contact that's been providing information to you guys directly, that's contrary to what I found on my internet research, I would definitely go with what they said.
Well, I think, Kelly, what we probably want to do is get on a call with this HFFI contact, because whatever it is, all that needs to be done in my mind is it needs to be clearly articulated in the agreement so that any liability does not fall back on energy.
Right,
However,
I
that
agree.
needs to be like warded, and whatever type of property transfers and all that jazz need to happen so that energy is not the one that has to pay back that money. Say Pride decides to sell the building in 20 years. That's the kind of protection we're looking for.
So who would I get the contact information for HFFI from in the group? Who's been working with them?
it's been Daniel and I, but I can, I'll connect with you, Kelly, to get you that information. And I'll also forward you that email I was mentioning.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's one thing in the
And-
work.
Sorry,
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
while we're talking about those increased for construction, that was due to the roof estimates that we had gotten. So maybe now would be a good time to clarify if we can include the roof in this
Right.
in this remediation or not.
Thank you,
Okay.
Daniel. I had that on my list as well, that
Okay.
and we've had email exchanges about both the roof and the insurance costs for builder's risk insurance being covered with the RLF application as well.
Okay. Let me step back just a moment about timing, and maybe this will kind of lower some of the pressure in the room a bit.
Ooh, anything to lower pressure is great.
My job in administering this program and in supporting the Brownfields Commission is to bring projects ready for their consideration that are eligible. On occasion, we have had to present projects that would be subject to conditions. In fact, almost always there's conditions to the commission's recommendation of a project, a loan or a subgrant to go to the city council. And those lists of conditions or preconditions can be rather lengthy. It is more than likely that we could make a condition of a recommendation on this subgrant be that Pride and NRG enter into an agreement to transfer the property to NRG and for the period of the remediation at a minimum. Other conditions can be added. It's just easier and simpler to try and get all of these issues settled before it reaches the commission. But on occasion, we have had to present projects that would only, where the recommendation of the commission would only become effective and the city council could take action only after those conditions are met. Now, EPA has been extremely supportive with our Brownfields program and has considered the even a conditional recommendation that the commission issues to be a commitment of RLF funds for purposes of requesting supplemental. So what all this means is that we do not have to have these agreements between Pride and NRG signed by the date that the commission meets. It would be more than helpful to do so, but if it can't be done, it can't be done. But that doesn't mean that we would not be able to take action that would be effective. Similarly, we don't have to have resolved the HFFI question. What we do need to have is a clear plan of action. We do need to be able to state to the commission, or you as the applicant, This is our intention. This is the money that we need. This is the cleanup that we're doing. This is the project that we're working towards. And this is our plan to fill in these missing pieces. If does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
So to get back to the more specific question of the roof, yes, the roof can be and part of your application. And the criteria are to do that EPA has expressed before is that I see Seth is joining us. The building, the improvement of property is generally not a remediation expense that's allowed under the RLF, but it is if it serves a remediation purpose. Here, the roof is failing and allowing water into the building, causing mold, which is a contaminant that the Brownfields program can remediate. The roof also protects the building from contaminants entering in and contaminants in the building, exiting the building and becoming and affecting the environment outside the building. So the cleanup of asbestos, lead-based paint, and mold in the building will not be protective of human health and the environment without an intact roof. Now, the expense to make sure that there is an intact roof cannot be unreasonable in relationship to the cleanup. If, for instance, you can't do a $10,000 cleanup and a $200,000 roof repair. But in this case, we know that the remediation of the hazardous materials in the building is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $150,000, $175,000. So remediating and repairing a roof in the range of like $100,000 would not be unreasonable. We would also need a statement by an environmental professional, such as Michael Dustman, that what I just generally stated about the roof being an integral part of the remediation is in fact, by an environmental professional, their opinion as well. And then we need some cost estimates from bids by professional roofers who have diagnosed the problem and prepared an estimate of what it would cost to repair that. Daniel, you've been great about getting those estimates. I think we have the pieces there and the pathway to get that roof into your subgrant application. That is not a major concern for me. And then with respect
great.
to new security doors on the building, insurance for the period that the project is in remediation. That is, and that could be up to a year, depending on how long it takes to get the final review and issue of a agency letter stating the cleanup is complete. All of that can be completed, I'd say, probably a 12-month period. So insurance for a year would not be a problem. Other security costs, if you need a patrol or an alarm system or something like that, that can also, or fencing, either temporary or, for the period of the remediation until the remediation is final. These ancillary expenses, as long as they're reasonable in relationship to the actual cleanup costs, we've covered for other projects, and we could consider them in your request in this project.
And I heard that that you included security doors as well as actual security personnel. Is that correct? For the period of remediation.
Exactly, if they're necessary, if you're having
Yeah.
break-ins, if people, if you can't make
Well, we
sure
did
that
have that weird fire vandalism thing that, praise God, Daniel happened to drive by and was able to catch it and work with Terrence to do, but yeah, there's been weirdness down there for sure. So that's really good to know as well.
yes, we've covered that for other projects, and that's EPA has allowed us to do that.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Well, those were my major questions about that. Now, let me just go back to our NRG report. So We have some things here in terms of action items. Alyssa and Andrew are gonna reach back out to Spencer Fain, see where they are in getting that agreement to Casey.
Yep.
We're gonna be looking for a board meeting in February. So Deanna, let's you and I talk about that with Adri. And Daniel, we need to talk with you as well, because you'll, be the presenter for that, and so let's figure out how we can support you and make sure you have the tools and resources that you need to get your messaging across to the board. Don't have a hard deadline on the 1 million, but we're thinking sometime mid-March. So we just got that in mind.
Right.
And then our review before the Brownfields Coalition will be late February, early March. So ideally our timeline is,
Actually, there's a date. There's a
is-
date for
okay.
the Brownfields Commission meeting, and that is February 23rd.
Okay, so if we can all Groundwork Energy team put February 23rd on our calendars right now, what time is that meeting, Andrew?
I believe it starts at 1.
At 1 p.m. And Alyssa, are you going to be there?
Yes, I'll be there.
Great. All right. So let's get that on the calendar, February 23rd at 1. I don't mind doing that, Groundwork team, putting that on our calendars. And then Deanna's going to connect Kelly with the HFFI person to talk about those details about the federal clawbacks. And we are going to, in our draft application, make sure we're including things for roof insurance and other security costs. So the insurance, we have the bids for the roof. Were we able to get the form to Tandy for the insurance quote so we can get that factored in, the cost? I'm not sure who that, Daniel, maybe. I know you were waiting for some information on that form, possibly from some other members of the team, but I'm not sure if it ever got sent to Tandy.
I sent Tandy what they were asking for, and they said that we would need something from the Brownfields or the EPA to
That's right.
I don't know. And so we sent them.
Hey, Seth.
I said, I heard from Tandy. She asked for a time period. I said, you can make the insurance effective from January 1st of this year. I consider the project to already be in remediation planning and design and underway, and you can make it for a 12-month period. And it could be extended if longer is needed. And I didn't hear anything back from Tandy. She also, I think, asked, is it an allowable expense? And I think I confirmed it is, but I'll just check that.
Okay, well, no need. Daniel, are you able to follow up with Tandy and just make sure that she got that term of January 1st to December 31st? And confirm with her that it is in fact an allowable expense so that we can get that quote. And then once you get that quote from her, can you send it to Scott and Andrew for the draft? Will you need that for the draft, Andrew?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I need and for Deanna's sake as well, I need a complete sources and uses on your project as accurate as you can make it right now. Total project value, total construction costs. We'll handle the environmental remediation costs and estimation. The roof repair bids, the bid that you prefer, that you think you're going to go with, if you think it's all best, and just need a lot more information about your project right now. Who are your consultants, your design professionals? What does the project site layout look like? The square footage that it's going to be used for specific uses, the number of people you're going to hire, part-time and full-time, all of that kind of stuff. I'm not asking for new work to be done. I'm asking to know, what have you done up to now, thinking about all of these elements of your project?
Well, I think, Daniel, you all created with Colluminate a whole pro forma, right? So Can we just send that to you, Andrew?
I would love that. That's exactly what we need.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna send you that, Andrew, because that lays out everything
Okay.
that you were asking for.
We've
And
been,
we
yeah,
also have a market study that,
perfect. Send everything. Send it
Okay.
all. Send it all. I will, Scott and I will cut and paste and put it into an RLF application and send it back to you to make sure everything is accurate.
Okay, so Dion, I have you sending the pro forma market study. Daniel, wasn't there another study that we did, or was it just those two?
It was just those two, but can we also get that letter from, Mr. Mike Dustman to say that the roof needs this and because of that, and so,
Yeah, we'll get,
On
we'll
it.
make sure that, yeah.
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. And then I'm not sure we have a site layout, Andrew.
That's okay. Whatever you
Yeah,
got.
Okay. All right.
Our purpose here, it's a couple things here. To make sure your project is real and progressing, and to convey that entire picture to the commission.
Yeah.
So that they know that we're making a commitment to a project that is more than likely to happen, that's well organized and financed and led, and has community engagement and support.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm sure all those things are there. We just need to bring them to the surface and make it very clear.
Yeah, just piece them together. Okay, great. So that was your needs for the draft.
Yep.
We covered our timeline for the next 2 months. We covered some of our action items out of this meeting. I think from your agenda, there was a piece on there about community engagement.
Yeah, and I think that there was a piece in there, Daniel, that you put into the last draft RLF subgrant application that I can start with but it's like been a year old now, so we need to update that to know have you had any community meetings since then? How, what the dates they were, where they were, the dates of them and what you accomplished in them, that sort of thing.
Okay, I'm not quite sure, but Alyssa did actually, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. It's in the CIP. Yeah. Well, so we need the CIP. And then to let you know, and that's a really great reminder leading into one of the other critical pathways. To be eligible for an EPA subgrant, we have to demonstrate that an ABCA, an analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives, has been made. A notice has been made to the affected community, and they've had an opportunity to comment on that ABCA for 30 days. The ABCA has already been prepared by Tetra Tech, and I think we just sent Tetra Tech some final comments on that, didn't we, Scott? Okay. Okay. So that ABCA will be finalized shortly, and then what we need you to do, NRG, is to finalize and to approve the CIP that Alyssa's working on, and to pick a date and a location for an ABCA meeting, and a location where the ABCA document and all of the supporting documentation called the administrative record will be available to the public. That could be a local public library branch or a church or wherever a natural meeting location is for the community that's affected. And also we can make all of that available online, and then start our 30-day count. The count does not have to be, we don't have to complete the 30 days by the commission date, but again, anything that we can complete by then makes it easier for the commission to approve.
And Andrew, could you say what the acronym is again for APCA?
Analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives, ABCA. It's one of the required conditions that EPA puts on RLF, use of RLF money.
And that is something that allows the community kind of to just have some feedback. It's like a public comment period, is that what it is?
It's a public comment period. It says, hey, community, this group wants to do this project. They're going to clean up some contamination in your neighborhood. It's at this location. It's this kind of stuff. We could clean it up doing 3 different ways. 1, doing nothing. 2, we could do it, stabilize it and partially take care of it so it doesn't hurt anyone in the immediate future. Or 3, we could remove it and never harms anyone again in the, ever. Just for example, that's a way a
Okay.
lot of them go.
Those are the alternatives.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
those are the cleanup alternatives. I got you.
Right.
Okay.
So we got to check that box off.
Okay, so we need to pick a place.
Yep.
To have a public meeting, or just
Yeah.
to put the sign, to have a public meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
And
We
Rachel
rec-
or
ahead.
Rima, if you want to have that public meeting location also be the same place that we keep the documents for 30 days, that's fine. I know the library that the main library on Minnesota Ave already said that they're happy to hold the documents, but I know that's not exactly close to the project, so,
Yeah. I mean, maybe we've been talking, I mean, this is a long shot, but Daniel's been talking with John McPherson. He says, we've been looking for some office space down there in the Northeast area. And he says he's got, like a space. Maybe John would be willing to have it there. Again, that's a big if, right, Daniel? But yeah. Wilson would probably be willing to have it as well, but I don't know where. It's such a small restaurant.
right.
I do have to ask a question. If we remove it, and like, where does it get taken to?
If
The
you
contaminants,
remove,
like asbestos
con-
and everything that's going to be removed during the remediation, that's what you're asking, the mold and all that stuff? Or
Yeah.
is it? Okay.
Michael, do you want to take that?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry. Where would we have the meeting?
No.
No,
Where,
sorry. It's going back a little bit. If that third option of removing all of the asbestos, the lead, and the mold, and just like taking it away from the site, then where does it end up?
It goes to a landfill. So basically the remediation, once the roof is repaired, the asbestos remediation requirements will trump mold remediation requirements. So you'll do both of them concurrently, and lead-based paint at the same time. There'll be air sampling that is conducted during remediation and post-remediation to show that it's safe for reoccupancy. Part of that post-remediation process for asbestos air sampling, you'll also do mold air samples and some tape lift samples to show that the mold is successfully remediated. And we'll also take dust wipe samples for lead-based paint. And so that way you've covered all of your bases for successful remediation. The report is then drafted by an environmental design professional consulting firm with subsequent lab data analysis that supports the successful remedial objective. And that is to remediate all mold, asbestos, and lead-based paint from your property. Does that, and then all those materials are then disposed at a landfill that accepts asbestos or lead waste. Does that answer your question, Daniel?
Yeah,
All right,
that's great.
cool.
My battery's low.
Since we're on the subject of remediation, I wanted to just take up the application that's been made to KDHE, and now Seth is on the line here. So it's going to be a little complicated working those two things together. I think the Brownfields RLF program can fund the entire remediation, but if KDHE is able to help out in some way that we could work together, and it's always a good idea to spread the coalition funds even farther. But we do need to spend down a certain amount of our coalition funds in order to qualify for the RLF opportunity. If we add the roof in, I don't think that'll be a problem at all. So Seth, how much was the application for and how much can you fund?
We can fund 50,000
Okay.
for the project. I will, and I missed the first part of the meeting, I'm sorry. If you need it, like, I know adding another component into this, another, coordinating with another agency and timeline and stuff. So, if you need it, we can help. We would do it like Michael Desmond knows, like, we would do it through our process for a component of the of what's needed. We would just need to know what you want us to do with what component of ACM. But if it's just a resource, so if you think you can do it all with the RLF and take one extra agency and mobilization and all of that out, perfectly happy. We would love to be part of the project, and we are, but if it helps not having extra people and an extra mobilization and everything involved, we're happy to step back as well. So it's really up to you what and if you want us to do.
Seth, can you provide a timeline on kind of, or at least give the group an estimated timeline if they do choose to go your route on kind of what that looks like? I know you guys just do asbestos, and then we would probably have to come back and do a subsequent mold clearance and lead, and kind of give them an understanding of what your services would include and entail, and how fast we can get something turned around.
Yeah. So like I said, we would only be able to do a portion of the asbestos component. I believe the full remediation of asbestos would be more than the $50,000 that we would be able to provide. And in the past, we discussed, well, it's not enough to do everything. Is there a way to do a component ahead of time if that's an option? So our timeline is kind of really up to the state contractors. We would put it out for bid for, say, 2 weeks, and then we would award it shortly after. And then it's based on the contractors or the contractor's subcontractor's schedule to see when it can be done. The remediation components, we don't necessarily put a timeline on. It's definitely within reason. The turnaround is usually less than 6 months. And that's with the final report, coming in, which means all asbestos has been, all the asbestos within the component that we're fulfilling has been removed. Air clearance has been completed, but it doesn't get you at the end goal of full remediation of asbestos. So that's why we're happy to help. It would have to be within our process, basically, for that 50,000. And it would be an extra mobilization and a whole extra component to the project. So that's why I say it may be too much to include us in if the RLF can do all of that within one mobilization.
I'm curious if if you selected a contractor from the state on-call list, if NRG could use the same contractor to subsequently follow, here's what $50,000 gets you, and then
Yeah,
they've procured. Go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
Yeah, that's not going to be possible to guarantee
Okay.
they use the same contractor. As a sub-grant, they have to engage in a competitive procurement process.
And that's the same with us. For our funding, we have to put it out to minimum three contractors for any project. So
is there
Well, Andrew,
any,
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, is there any asbestos remediation that ought to be done before roof repair? That could disturb something?
Yes, that there would probably need to be, and I don't know for sure, but there would probably need to be the asbestos tiles that are underlying the areas of the roof that need to be repaired, especially like the substructure of the roof. The asbestos ceiling tiles are the bulk of the asbestos abatement work, as I understand it, from the hazardous material survey. So doing a portion of them, you know, for $50,000 may or may not be enough to do the, you know, the work that would be needed for the roof. And I don't exactly know whether those tiles would have to be removed to repair the roof or not, because I don't know exactly the scope of work for the roof.
And I think that's what we talked about in the last call, is if there was a way to utilize our funding for a minor remediation so that you could get the roof repaired or something, and then come in with the RLF and do the majority of the ACM abatement.
You know, it might be simpler, if you were going to do that, it might be simpler to do the floor tile, because I think that could probably be knocked out for less than $50,000. But like I said, it would be two mobilizations, unless your contractor could work under another contractor's mobilization or containment. But that may be
Yeah.
too complex.
I think it would be too complex.
Yeah.
But, and this is why I bring up, you know, if it's going to be too much of an issue and it can be covered under the RLF, it may just be easier just to do it under the RLF. But I'll leave that up to you. And if you need anything, if something comes up and you need to do a minor mobilization ahead of time, we're willing. We just need to know what the scope is. So
Okay. Seth, let me ask one more question. If regardless, we are obligated by EPA to have the cleanup entered into the state's voluntary cleanup program, if we're using RLF funds. So an application has been submitted to the VCPRP, and you run the Brownfields program, which we now understand are two completely separate things. So can the entire cleanup still go through the VCPRP if your program is no longer providing any services?
um
When I
this
say
gets-
entire cleanup, I mean whatever cleanup you can oversee. Yeah.
so this is where it gets a little complicated, or this is not complicated. This is where it needs to be sorted out and discussed with EPA, because our VCP program does not handle building materials, asbestos in building materials. Their only regulatory authority is for asbestos in soil, groundwater, whatever, that type of media. So it does not include, they don't have the authority to regulate asbestos in building material.
So that would include the lead and the mold and the asbestos, everything in the building.
If it's in the structure and it's part of the structure, they have no regulatory authority. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if we can clearly establish that, then there's another pathway we can go.
Okay.
And we've done it before. We in effect become we determine what would be the applicable regulatory criteria for the cleanup, and we would use environmental professionals to certify that those are the criteria and that they've been met, with verification, sampling afterwards, and air monitoring during, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm glad that that's somewhat clarified. And then, yeah, go ahead.
I think we realized, I think when I was before Deanna left, the VCP unit manager, they should have refunded the fee, the VCP application fee.
Okay.
And sent a either email or letter just that indicating that the type of hazardous material and where it is not eligible for the VCP program, and
Okay.
because they have no regulatory authority. So they should have refunded all of the application fee along with sending that letter of why it wasn't eligible. So
Daniel, did you receive that letter?
No, I haven't. And I just wanted to, I just want to clarify for a second, if I can. The only reason we even thought about involving KDHE is just to get some kind of movement going, if that was what it was
Understand.
going to be. So
Sure.
if it sounds like it's going to be too much, we talk about it and we can cover it all under the RLF. We would love to do that as well. We just want to get something going.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. We don't want to tell you what to do, but I would concur with Mr. Metling's assessment. So you as the applicant, NRG, just tell us what you decide to do with with your application, and we'll take it from there. And then Rukema, I wanted to just make sure one thing that we absolutely need for your board to meet in February is to both approve the submission of the RLF subgrant application and to designate the officer or representative of NRG who's authorized to sign that application.
I'm an authorized signer already. We already have like in our bylaws and in our other stuff, like who's authorized signers on behalf of the organization. So do you need something special for?
No, we just need to have that authority clearly spelled out.
It's spelled out in our bylaws and in board meetings.
Okay, great. If you can, and then send those along to us. One other thing that we need, and this is just a kind of a small detail, but as long as we're doing housekeeping, is the uniform identification, entity identification, unique entity ID. It used to be a DUNS number. Now it's called the unique entity ID, or UEI.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so we need that for your organization. If you don't have a UEI, we can help you request and get one.
No, we do here.
Okay. If you're getting grant money, you got one, I'm sure. And Deanna, that's another thing in the capital stack, in the sources for this project. Every grant that you're getting, every source of funds, especially sources of funds that you are seeking but haven't yet secured. Oh, thank you, Rachel. Put that in your sources and uses statement. And hopefully that's in your pro forma as well. We're nearing the end of our hour. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just acknowledging.
Oh, great. Okay. We're nearing the end of our hours. Anything that we haven't covered that we should cover?
I feel like we've covered a lot.
We have. This has been extremely helpful. And
Yeah.
I just thank you. Thank you so much for, on a drop of a hat, coming together and meeting and talking like this. I would not have asked for this, but for the magnitude of the benefit that we can generate for this project and for the coalition, and the time constraints that we're working under. So I appreciate everyone's coming together on this so quickly. And Scott has been taking notes, and we'll come up with action items and decisions that were made, circulate that for everyone's review and opportunity to say, yes, that happened, or no, that didn't happen. And then we'll get back. So if we need another meeting, I don't think we will like this, but I think if we do need to keep communicating is the most important thing. So please circulate communications to all involved, perhaps maybe not Seth, and going forward, if you choose not to continue with the program, but everyone else. And Seth, I believe there's a new contact for the VCPRP, and do you have that contact?
I can share it in the group email.
Okay.
Yeah, Deanna left. She retired, and so our section chief is taking that on temporarily until her position's filled. And it may end up being my boss. She may move laterally over to the VCP program. So we're just trying to figure out, next steps for everything. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
Great, thank you so
everyone.
much.
Take care. Have a great
Thank
rest
you.
of your day. Great weekend.
Thanks. You
Go
too. Bye-bye.
Bills.
Go Bills.
Chiefs. Go Chiefs.
Can't really say that. All right. Bye-bye.
Oh, boy.